So Marvin Bagley is really good, and it seems like he can be a franchise-changing player. But to get that type of guy, you gotta tank it up, and it's gonna be difficult to do this year, as the NBA Tankapalooza of 2017/2018 involves like 6 or 7 teams that are all within like 18 to 20 wins. It's gonna be a hell of a stretch. Now, let's start with the Memphis Grizzlies, who are right there towards the bottom at about 18 wins. It's been going really bad for them this season. By the way, the footage in this is all going to be positive, but the things I'm saying are not as positive, which makes no sense, but whatever. I figure I'd throw these teams at least a little bit of a bone. You have to assume that Marc Gasol, even if he's been a little worse this season, can still give them a few victories, and that's dangerous when you want to tank and you have a star player like him who can be a really effective two-way player. I think the best thing they could do is play him with non-shooters, so even if he is a really good passer, the guys he throws it to just aren't going to make shots. As for Marc Gasol's defense, I mean, look, Memphis has been pretty bad on defense all year. I think they can get by. The one risk they're taking, though, is that they didn't trade Tyreke Evans, and I think Tyreke could deliver them a couple of more victories on the season. That could be the difference between the top pick and maybe the 3rd or 4th pick with how close this is right now. Rest in peace, Klay Thompson, by the way. Next, we get to the Sacramento Kings, who I think have a very strong bid for the top pick in the draft, because there really isn't too much to say is really good. Now, they do have some big game potential. Buddy Hield might go off for 35 one night because he goes like 7 for 8 from 3. But besides that, you have a rookie point guard in De'Aaron Fox, and that is very good because rookie point guards are almost always guys who don't deliver any victories to you at all. And De'Aaron Fox clearly has some work to do, and I think he's below someone like Alonzo Ball or a Dennis Smith. So that's a good sign for them. There is also Zach Randolph, who's kind of tough, because in some sense, he's great for this situation because he's a black hole on offense and he's terrible on defense. But he recently just won a game by putting up like 22 and 7 or something. So he's kind of risky. I would hope the negative far outweighs the positive with Randolph in this situation. We got to look at Bogdanović as well. He's been a good player this year. Good players can lead to 1 or 2 more victories. We don't want 1 or 2 more victories if we're the Sacramento Kings here. The Phoenix Suns might have ruined their chances by acquiring Elfrid Payton, who sure is nothing to marvel at, but he's at least an average NBA point guard, whereas Tyler Ulis could be described as a below average one. But they do have the Marquise Chris and Dražen Bender lineup in their back pocket, and those two playing together in about 100 minutes this season is like minus 25. So if there's like 3 games left and they have to lose them, they should start those two because it's almost a guarantee that they're going to play horribly. Now, Devin Booker might be the biggest scare of this entire thing because he could go off for 45 points any game, and that could be all she wrote on a Phoenix team that is desperate to find another star player to pair up with him. So hopefully Booker just doesn't do too much for them. I mean, Booker and Elfrid Payton together, that's like quietly not a horrible backcourt. Not a good sign if you want to get your tank on. We have another rookie point guard with the Dallas Mavericks and Dennis Smith. He's been getting the ball a little bit more lately. I mean, he's been getting the ball a lot, but giving him the ball a little more often could end up being good for them. And Dirk is the weirdest player for this because defensively he's terrible at this point. So just playing him more often if you're Rick Carlisle can actually be really good, and Dirk sells you tickets. He gets people to come to the games. So you're accomplishing 2 things. You get a high draft pick and you're still making money. You get to put Dirk out there and have people go nuts for him. Now it is a little scary because he still can shoot, and you don't want him like hitting 6 straight 3-pointers and winning you a game either. Harrison Barnes is quietly a good thing for this because he does command a lot of the offense and usage rate and all that, but he's not like a guy who's just going to randomly go off for 40 points. He's going to put up like 18 to 21 every game, typically not enough to win you games if that's your primary scorer. But the big thing here, I think, would be to just have Dennis Smith do everything for you, commit a whole lot of turnovers, and as a result, you don't win much more on the season. Now, the Atlanta Hawks have Dennis Schroeder as their top dude. I would say he's similar to Harrison Barnes in the sense of high usage rate, the output not really worth it, which sucks if you're trying to win, but if you're not trying to win, that's good. The scary thing for Atlanta, though, that could give them some extra victories, Mike Budenholzer's a good coach, and they shoot a lot of three-pointers. They're like 8th in the league in three-pointers attempted. That's the sort of thing, you get hot, and you could win an extra 2 or 3 games, and next thing you know, you're drafting, Miles Bridges as opposed to Luka Doncic. And who wants that? Nobody wants that. And before Miles Bridges becomes amazing. So give the ball to Schroeder, have him shoot all of his long 2-pointers, and just lose as much as you can. The Orlando Magic have Aaron Gordon, who should provide for some highlights, and hopefully doesn't get hot from 3 again, because in the beginning of the season it was cool because they might have been making the postseason for like 5 minutes. Some people thought that. Clearly not going to happen now. Play Bismack Biyombo, because he's not good. He was pretty decent in Toronto. They gave him a big contract and he immediately fell off a cliff. And you gotta just put him on the perch of that cliff and say, keep on falling, Bismack. Keep on falling all the way to us getting the top pick in the lottery, because these Magic desperately need it. I mean, it has been too long where they've traded guys away who ended up being good, and they probably should have traded Evan Fournier for the sake of this, but they probably weren't able to given his contract. But that would have helped out their efforts, definitely. Now, the Brooklyn Nets are a little more interesting because they don't actually have their draft pick. That is, of course, going to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So the Nets are going to try to win. Similar to Atlanta, they shoot 1,000,000 threes. But for Cleveland's sake, they should just play Jahlil Okafor because they're like minus 28 when he's in the game. It's pretty impressive how bad Okafor has made them when he's been in the game. So he could single-handedly give Cleveland the number 1 pick. And even if it's not number 1, it could be something up there. But again, Kenny Atkinson, good coach. These guys play with pace. They play together. They play hard. They've been in a lot of close games lately. Spencer Dinwiddie's been pretty damn good for them. So there is a chance that Brooklyn could find themselves being a little bit better than some of the other teams here because they don't want to lose, right? They're not going to make some weird lineup adjustment that really doesn't make any sense, like playing Dragan Bender and Marquise Chris together, because there's no point. They don't have their draft pick anyway. So we'll see what happens with them. We get to the Chicago Bulls. They have 2 things that hurt them, and that's that they have 2 legitimately good players who can go off for some points. Chris Dunn's not bad, I'll give him that. But the main 2, Zach LaVine, and then Lauri Markkanen, the guy who is setting Chicago on fire at the moment. I mean, Markkanen can go off the dribble, he can shoot threes, and he's a guy who could just put up like 27 points. Or he could go on a 5-game stretch where he just nails like every 3-pointer he attempts. And that's not good in terms of getting a high draft pick, or a higher one. You're going to get a high one regardless because of how bad you are, but you know what I mean. Now the New York Knicks. It's unfortunate what happened with Porzingis, but now they can just make the most of the situation and be terrible. My suggestion to New York, here's a lineup that you run with, okay? You roll with Damian Dotson at the small forward position. Okay, he's 22, 23 years old, something like that. You go with Isaiah Hicks at power forward, who is also early 20s. You accomplish 2 things with this lineup. You suck, and you also get to see your young dudes. You roll with Frank Ntilikina at the shooting guard position. I say 2 guard because he can play some defense, and seems like he can be a 3-point shooter. And then you go with Emmanuel Mudiay at point guard. Don't screw this up, New York. Don't try to win games, okay? It's unfortunate with what happened to the guy, of course, and injuries are terrible, and in a perfect world, they would never happen. But you do have the opportunity right now to draft a top-tier talent while you still have Porzingis, on the roster, assuming that he's good to go, and we all hope he is eventually. It could be like another Tim Duncan, David Robinson situation if the Knicks end up drafting a star. I guess we should mention the Charlotte Hornets. They have Kemba Walker, and they're not trying to lose. So I have to assume they're just not going to fall off that much. And then finally, the last team also doesn't have their pick, the Los Angeles Lakers. It seems like Philadelphia is going to end up with that thing, because the Lakers, on top of just trying to win, have also been like a damn good defensive team this season. Well, I don't know about damn good, but they've been pretty okay on defense, and Ingram has been turning it on lately, and Lonzo Ball is going to be back healthy at some point here. So I would expect Philadelphia to be somewhere around number 9 or 10, selecting in the draft or whatever. If I had to make my picks, I think your top 2 here are the Phoenix Suns, because even what I just said with Devin Booker and Elfrid Payton and all that, they're still the Phoenix Suns. And then the other one would be the Sacramento Kings, the two worst defensive teams in the NBA. Listen, guys, you've been messing a lot of things up lately. Don't mess this thing up. Just be really bad and go from there.